Namaskar and welcome to this exciting episode on Sathology Debunking Mythology. Sat means truth, Logos means a study or science, Ology means a science of truth, a study of truth. Opposite of that is mythology, which means science of fake lie imagination or study of fake lie imagination. The Vedic scriptures, Puran, Mahabharat, Itihas cannot be termed as mythology because they can be astronomically, archaeologically proved. But there are many stories cannot be proved archaeologically because they did not their information from other planets. Now, in the case of Abrahamic cultures, whether it's Islamism or Christianism or Judaism, none of their stories can be archaeologically or astronomically verified independently. Just like, but in the case of Sanatan Dharma or Vedic cultures, all stories have been independently verified. Okay, that's the difference out there. So they are actually the mythology. Abrahamic philosophies are actually mythology. Today we are going to bring a perspective from Mahabharata into the protection of farmers because we don't think that during Mahabharata times also there was farming, people were doing agriculture, people were doing trade, and they were making policies for the betterment of farmers. And there is one specific instance which comes. But before that, I would like to invite my guest, Vice Chancellor from Bilaspur, Atal Bihari Vajpayee University. Let us invite Professor ADN Vajpayee. Namaskar, Vajpayee ji. Good morning.
जी नमस्कार आदित्य जी.
So the coming back to the farmers. So it's not that people were not eating in the past. People were eating in the past. Agriculture was there, and because people usually think Mahabharata story is only about the war, but everything else was going on. This was just one incident. So what do you think is today's like the focus on farmer welfare? Do the farmer policies reach and how important it is for the economics? Because from the economics point of view, you can throw some more light.
Aditya, so far as the farmers community as a whole, they need to be protected. Protected not from the point of view of the farmers themselves, but also for the point of view country as a whole, or the world as a whole. Because there are farmers only who are producing cereals to be converted into food items. And without food, you see, nobody can survive. Food are the essential commodities to be eaten, to be digested, to be converted into energy form for furthering all its activities. These are farmers who are producing clothing items, which are the essential commodities to clothe ourselves, to protect ourselves from the natural vagaries in winters, in summers, and other seasons. But the basic raw material is produced from the farming and farmers only. There are farmers who are providing labor force. Labor force, which is an essential commodity, essential factor of production for all activities, all economic activity, whether it is construction, whether it is housing, whether it is services, name is any activity requires labor force. So, farmers need to be protected, not only from the point of view of the individual welfare of the farming community, but from the macro perspective of helping the economy by and large. So macro perspective shall have to be taken within the country and within the globe as a whole. And to me personally, I think this farming community has not been protected. In India, certain many steps have been taken, but uh, leaving some developed countries, maybe see America or see Soviet Union or China, in other countries also, the plight of farmers is not good, it's quite pitiable, which requires to be addressed appropriately with the given appropriate situation. This is my first response to your question, Aditya. Yes, Aditya.
Very well put it, and very. It's very cold here, but it's very well put this question actually, because the farmers' rights are, like Krishi Goraksha Vanijam. That's one of the best,
Yes.
you can say, qualities of a Vaishya. You know, Vaishya karma subhavjam. and
Yeah.
and somehow we have put, somehow the agriculture has been put out of the business circles. But if you look at the largest industrial houses in the world are subsisting on food production. Whether you are selling oil, edible oil, because that's a consumable,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
and it's consumable, and the lot of cheese and processed food industry has come up a lot. And it has also it has its own side effect, because the longer the food is stored, and the food storage business, food transportation business, all these are connected to this sector, farming sector, and which is one of the largest in the world. In fact, that is what is the sea lanes to protect those is being fought on. There are,
Yeah.
the land is also plenty, but India has done a very good use of technology, which Americans also use it, and they have used satellites a lot. India has used it from the beginning of television, that when it started in India, on the farmers. So even that has become very uh, uh, that has become very common. Uh, so the my next question to you is, the if you look at the Arthashastra point of view, Chanakya puts a special emphasis on the king to protect all the farming lands from encroachment of small farmers. And in Arthashastra, and there is a penalty for that, for encroaching the land of a small farmer. So even during that time, there were small farmers, big farmers were there, and there were mandi. Even mandis are mentioned there. That mandis were also there, and nothing has changed much in the farming sector other than the expectation of producing larger from a smaller land. So what do you think is the today's status of farm laws in India, which you think are impeding the interests of the small farmer?
Yes, so Aditya, we all know the structure of land holdings. And here I would like to mention that difference between the Indian farming sector and especially American and European farming sector. The American and Russian farming is just to have very big farms. The Americans have the corporate farming, where many farms of thousand hectares of land. Whereas the Russians have this cooperative farming, they too have this large farming sector. And in Russia, there is a state which does everything on its own, whereas in America, now the individual farmers, they are as good as any big industry. There remains very little difference between any industries producing manufacturing goods or the farming commodities. They have developed that type of system. Here in India and many you see South Asian countries, where we have the individual ownership issue, from which you see the land keeps on fragmenting with the pace of say, generations coming up, because they all believe in the individual ownership as such. There was a time when you see an individual could own as much land as possible during British period also. The British introduced this Zimidari system, somewhere Rayatwari system, somewhere Talukdari systems, like that, where say, any individual could own not only piece of land but villages of villages. There is a Zimidar who has got Zimidari over say 40 villages. The entire land of villages is owned by that particular Zimidar. But sooner after independence, the abolition of Zimidari and also imposition of several legislative rules on a ceiling of land as one particular person can't own more than this of land as such. So this has led to fragmentation of holdings also, as well as ceiling of one particular limit to an individual farmer asset. And today's situation is as such. About 60% of total land holdings in India belong to the smaller sizes. I'm not using this term small. We are having marginal land holdings, then we are having small land holdings, then semi-medium holdings. The three categories are involved in this smaller land holdings as such. And their numbers is also counted in crores and crores either. So when it comes to protection of farmers, big farmers can take care of themselves. Because they are you see, having large land holdings with them. Not only from agriculture, they are having sufficient off-farm income also to them. Off-farm income means besides agriculture, they are having some projects like poultry, some projects like dairy, projects like fisheries, some projects like forestry also. Some of their members are going to serve in cities, in government jobs, in organized sectors job. So their income is many times more with the given social and economic value within India. Whereas the smaller farmers are totally depending upon agriculture. They are having very little of farm activities also to their rescue. They have very less numbers of persons who go to work you see outside as such. So the protection of this smaller farmers is much needed. So where India is concerned, India since the inception of the first fire plan has been you see, taken care of this farming sector. And as you rightly told about the technology, is not only the IT, so far as use of technology within agriculture, the green revolution technology has done a lot of so far as impeding productivity of the land as such. There was a time when India did not have sufficient food items. The entire food production was about 50 million tons, and today it has crossed more than 350 million tons. So there is a lot of jump. So the green revolution technology, in which irrigation, hybrid varieties of seeds, and fertilizers, these three inputs have been used most properly and also in a most widely across the nation, so that the productivity has increased. With the increase of productivity, the income also of farmers has increased. They have gone for diversification of crops. Initially, they were taking only 1 year, one crop. Afterwards, they went for, you see, double cropping systems. And afterwards, within the food crops and non-food crops, so many farmers have shifted from food to vegetables, food to flowers, food to horticulture. These things have happened. So uh, certainly the Indian government has got its own ministry at the top, states to have, you see, their Ministry of Agriculture. And from the village level also, we are having village development officers. They are having ADO, Assistant Development Officer, Agriculture, block development means officers. They are concentrating upon the problems of agriculture. Not only this, we are having one full bank as a which is called NABARD, the National Bank for, you see, Agriculture and Rural Development. That bank is totally taking care of the problems of agriculture and, you see, road development. What I mean to say that farmers are being taken care of, but the total protection of farmers community as a whole, I think the government has to do a lot so far as reaching to that particular topic. One thing I would like to tell you more. You see, the farmers, entire farmers' crops are just open to, you see, mercy of the God. So where monsoon is concerned, number one, for irrigation purposes. And when you see a crop is ready, then also so many, you see, vagaries of see climate comes. So it becomes very difficult for the farmers to reap in time. And for them also, crop insurance scheme was coined by the Indian government so that with the beginning of crop only, any farmer can go to insure that complete crop. And suppose that crop is, you see, ruined out of natural vagaries or due to animal problems or to see the fires in the crops also, which is quite common in India. The farmers can get, you see, compensation from this insurance companies. So people are coming forward, but even I think a lot of things are to be done. Aditya.
You said very well, because Indian government has gone very large, in the to large extent in the favor of the small farmers, but that cannot be said about South American farmers and also European
Yes.
farmers, because and also small farmers in the USA, because most of the times the big corporations have taken over farming in South America, large, and maybe they are funded together through one company or multiple firms, but it's still the large corporations using doing farming. And this the in the case of USA, you said about land holdings are very large in the USA, and most of the farms are corporatized and being owned. Now very few people know that the Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos are the biggest farmers in the US. they
Yes.
own they own like almost like 300,000 acres each, or hectares each. That's the kind of land they own. The In the case of Europe, the small farmers are still continuing to a large extent, but still they are being overtaken by the big farmers, the big corporations, I would say, not farmers, corporations. Now, corporatization of farming, do you think it's a good idea according to your understanding, and or not?
Let me frank to you, Aditya. You know that I am known for my frank opinions. I don't agree to corporating because, especially if you just take the case study of India as such, see, the piece of land is a source of income, means economic status, and the piece of land, you see, gives the social status also to the individual. And this piece of land is the political power also to the individual. Yeah, land is not meant to be a piece of land. And land is not merely a land, but it provides you income, it provides you social status, it provides you, you see, the political power, and also it provides you psychological satisfaction as such. So here I mean to say, when you corporatize, you see the farmland, your land will be given by, will be taken by some corporate, some individual corporate, some individual company. Then while just you see, while siphoning up of land from small farmers to the bigger farmers, all things will be snatched away. That income, social status, political power, and his psyche will also be disturbed. In that case, I say that no, no, no. There must not be corporation or money of land as such. Let these smaller pieces of land should be given proper guidance, proper technology, proper support, including subsidy as a, so that they can come up in a better manner. In a better manner, their income can be increased. Here, when Honorable Prime Minister came into power, he said that farmers' income should be doubled, and there he has given some timeline also. So, farmers' income should be doubled means one, farmers' income coming from the piece of land, farmers' income coming from off-farm activities. So off-farm and on-farm activities taken together will also take the case of farmers' income doubling. Another thing I would like to mention, Mr. Adit, here itself, because we in India not only believe in economic growth, but our objective of growth and social justice are intertwined. We believe in social justice also and growth also. So if you just make larger piece, taking away of the smaller pieces from different individual farmers, then what will happen? You can produce more food, but what you are going to produce will be decided by those corporators, not by the small farmers. The small farmers need wheat, but big corporate wants to produce oil seeds for getting more and more funds, more and more income like that. Where the need of an individual farmer is to produce food, to produce rice, to produce vegetable for feeding himself and feeding his families. The corporator won't take care of all these basic necessities of the individual farmer. No matter, a corporator will obtain the economies of large scale production, but that will accrue to the pockets of those big corporators, not to these individual farmers. These individual farmers will be converted into labor force, and labor don't have any choices in India or anywhere in the world. I think it will create a lot of social tensions. What I mean to say that the social justice in which we require to feed, clothe individual persons appropriately with respect, and also the income inequalities should be minimized. These things can be achieved only when we have protected, well protected these smaller farmers. And I do agree when you quoted Mahabharata that no piece of land should be taken, no piece of agricultural land should be converted for non-agricultural purpose. And this should be imposed because people say that we are having land in plenty. No, land is the only factor of production which is available in finite number. The other factor of production, say labor, you can increase by some manipulations, by some tactics, and capital you can increase, you can decrease. But land you cannot produce, land you cannot reduce. Land is just available in a limited manner. And within land also, we are having agricultural land that too has got limitedness because each land cannot produce crops, there are certain, suppose we are having fallow lands, they cannot produce crops until unless some more inputs are required. Here I would go further. Not only converting this agricultural land to non-agri purposes, I think non-agricultural purposes land should be converted into agricultural purposes. The non-agricultural, the land which is available, somehow it should be transferred, it should be technologically made available to the agriculturals so that more crops, more production of food items are available for general welfare of the common people. Yes, Aditya.
You know, this is a very classical way of helping farmers globally, not just India. And another thing is people who are not farmers by profession, there should be laws, like there are laws in Arthashastra which allow the government to control the distribution of land to those people who cannot do farming. So the farming land is now, farming has various professions. There are business side to the farming, and there are trading points to the farming, the processing. People think that this was not done in the past. All these things have been done in the past because humanity has survived for so long, and people have eaten tasty food. So all these things are going on from the past also, but still there were laws regarding the currency distribution, the barter system. So the farming ecosystem was built up of multiple economic exchanges. One was barter, another was currency, because currency was
Wonderful.
there. And also the third thing was the loans. Even the loans have been existing in the past. Mahabharata has references on state supporting loans to the farmers at no interest, and so that they can continue if the crop is bad. They do not have to suffer. Now, the corporatization of farming brings unique challenges, because now the shareholders control the lands, and many shareholders may not be the farmers. So, do you think the laws are needed on those areas also, where the corporatization of farming is controlled, not stopped, but controlled?
Actually, Aditya, this farms and farming and farmers issue is a very sensitive matter. It's a very sensitive one, and should be dealt with the utmost care asset. As in case of India, you know that there are three forms acts were passed by Parliament, and after great agitation and roads by farmers, they had to be repealed. Why such a situation did occur? I think there were certain problems. The government should have taken matter to the public. A lot of discussion could have been taken place. Involved is not only the experts but also the uh, persons of the society, just to deal whether these acts are good or not. But certainly there should be legislation, there should be laws against uh, use of the land of small farmers, even the produces of small farmers by the corporate world. The corporators are past masters. They privacy shall appear they are doing everything in the welfare of the small farmers, but their ulterior motives would be entirely different, because we all know the intentions of any private sector. Their main purpose is to make profit out of their activities. So you earn profit with the saying that sooner profit is earned, it will be distributed to all shareholders afterwards. But a chartered accountant will say, no, you have not earned profit, you have incurred losses. It's actually you are earning profit, but a chartered accountant will show that either lesser profit or is losses. So lesser profit will be distributed also in a limited amount. And losses you cannot distribute, or if you distribute, that will again create problems. Because we have seen so many cases by the bad chartered accountant giving bad balance sheets. So avoiding these manipulations at all. And why to have this manipulation? Let the small farmers also enjoy their own ownership, their independence, their democratic rights, protect them, give them their own rights of ownership, rights to produce, rights to sell their commodities in the markets. They want to sell it out. There should not be any imposition because they have been doing these activities since time immemorial. When neither Indian government was there, nor British government was there, nor Mughals were there. Our own system, as you are quoting, you see Mahabharata and see Narada. Mahabharata agriculture was the main stake, that was the main activity. Krashak, Krashak means who attracts and who is extracts, who is converting the natural resources into consumable item. And Lord Krishna, Krishna is also coincides with Krashak only. Krishna was a cow rearer, was a Gopal. He was rearing the cows, and cows are directly associated with agriculture. The crops were grown to rear the cows. Milk of the cows were transformed into so many items. There may be you can cheese or you see butter, ghee, charge. So many things are produced out of the cow milk. So India has got very rich tradition. And coming to even connecting our old, you see, satology, this is Vishwamitra. No? Vishwamitra was a great biotechnologist. He produced so many hybrid crops which were not naturally grown. These things were available in India. So I mean to say that please just keep this corporatization or capitalization of agriculture aloof. Let indigenization of agriculture make us a proper seat so that everybody should be happy. Yes, Aditya.
So, no, very, very good points you mentioned, because the corporatization is a threat to the small farmers, but not to the, obviously people who are now shareholder driven investment has no control, because you can have shareholders in any direction. I'm talking particularly about institutional investors. Generally, we have seen that all institutional investors ultimately lead back to just 2 or 3 firms in the world, just 2 or 3 or 4, maybe 5, but not more than that. And also it opens up the agriculture to people who have no interest in agriculture other than profits, and therefore the processed food industry grows up in a big way. Now, if you look at the history, then processed food industry was there in the past also. People used to store organic grains as seeds so that they can be used in the future. And many times the seeds were kept in multiple forms, whether it's liquid or dried or many other forms. They had the ways to do it, otherwise the crops will disappear from many parts of the world. But the corporatization and homogenization of food culture has actually impeded such kind of natural practices. I'll take the example of Africa. Now, before colonizers from Europe reached Africa, Africa was known to have more than 7,800 varieties of grains. 7,800. India is literally triple. India has 26,000 varieties of grains. 26,000. Just India, today's India, and includes Burma and Pakistan also. It's all part of India. Now, the the amount of diversity which Africa had is now over. Now only 198 varieties of grains are available. 198 from 7,500 to 198 only. Now, it is due to the export of food culture from Europe to Africa and destruction of African original culture. That's what the Native Africans are protesting against. Now, even in the case of Native Americans had at least 26 varieties of rice they would use, 26 varieties of rice, which are grown naturally in the USA. Now, that has also been impeded, stopped. In India also, the overemphasis on wheat and white rice is a major problem, whereas India has other grains also, amaranth, bajra, millet, other the popularity of those grains have reduced over the years. And this is a result of corporatization and availability in the markets of what kind of grains. So the automatically the food shortages come in because the lands which are suitable for millet are being converted for rice or wheat. So what do you have to say on that? That the colonizers actually destroyed the agriculture of the native lands wherever they went. I can say a lot about Australia, where aborigines never faced food shortage. Food shortage was never there. But with the colonization and the corporatization and the homogenization, the the native food industry of aborigines is completely destroyed. So the colonization brought this disease also, and which is still continuing in the name of corporatization, because most of the large institutional investors are west based. West means Christian countries, mostly Europe, USA, and their allies. What do you have to say on that?
Aditya, so far as varieties of these food products are concerned, you know that climatic conditions of countries within countries are different in different places. And here you have already quoted that पांच कोस पे पानी बदले और चार कोस पे पानी, isn't it? So within 5 kilometers of range, the ingredients of water change. If ingredients of water change, then you see ingredients of soil would also change. The type of product and quality of product and the size of product will to change, because it all depends upon the quality and availability of water as such. So the variety of the same food item, say in India, Chhattisgarh, within Chhattisgarh, where you introduced me, I am the Vice Chancellor over here. We are having 36 regions, 36 regions within Chhattisgarh. 36 regions. And this Chhattisgarh is known as bowl of rice. But there are 36 varieties of rice. In each, you see, region, different quality, different smell, different fragrance of rice is produced. This is the beauty of if we are decentralizing or concentrating upon the independent, individually resources of the farmers to produce those food items on their own. And the basic purpose of those products is not to sell out commercially, is to feed his own family. There are three main purposes. First, to keep one portion of entire produce for the seeding purposes in the next crops. As you yourself told that there has been several proviso of preserving the seeds. Nowadays, today, when with the invent of biotechnology and this the types of seeds coming from America, you don't have the reproduction of seeds from the crops themselves. There are no seed element in those food items. So there is no case of preserving one portion of crops as a seed item. Another is to feed the family, not family, the entire society, and remaining goes for the market surplus. So here the purpose of agriculture is entirely different today and the past. Our traditional purposes of agriculture, one, to keep one portion for the next crop seeds, then feed the family and society as a whole, and third purpose is to have the marketable surplus. If you don't have marketable surplus, don't sell it out. Keep the keep entire seafood items for feeding your family, for seeding purpose. And when we are coming to the modern farming, the main purpose to sell entire produce in the market. Marketing is the main purpose. Commercializing of agriculture is the main purpose of commercial for the agriculture asset. When we are converting our traditional agriculture into corporate agriculture or the capitalist agriculture, then market will take the first seat, not the consumption of those produced items by the producers themselves. Things will be marketed, income will be generated. Then, if possible, income can be percolated to those who say persons. But what will they do of that money? They may not use for the consumption of nutritious food that can be used for clothing, that can be used for purchase of the materialistic gadgets. So basic purpose of agriculture is property misplaced, Aditya. That is required, and laws are to be made. Laws should be made in these lines also. That we should have it. We should protect the traditional purposes of agriculture as well, in which market should take the third place, feeding of family and society second place, and keeping one portion for the seeds purposes. Then only the entire ecosystem of agriculture will be protected. And this I am not telling about India, but this story can be emulated for the whole of the world. Yes, Aditya.
No, very good point, because I think this has to be controlled through legislation to protect the small farmers. And also there is there is nothing new that we are doing today which was not done in the past. And I can go back to Arthashastra, and I can go back to
Yes.
other to other to other Shastra, including Mahabharata, where we can go and check it out, that the principles have not changed. So the like, for example, there is a instance of a the small farmer getting a fixed price from the government. And there is a very specific instance where Narada says that the small farmers need to be given, whether the crop is good or bad, a basic subsistence. Okay, a basic.
Yes.
And this is Narada discussing with Yudhishthir. Now, the same applies today also. Like we said, that we have to protect them from corporatization and forcing them to grow certain crops. So that will be the last question. So what is your view on that?
I think as we discussed in the first part of this lecture, like that, agriculture is the mainstay for our economy. No matter you see the contribution of agriculture to the total GDP is declining, and this has been trend all over the world, especially developed economies. In developed economies, the labor force was also switching from agriculture or primary sector to secondary industry in an automatic manner. In India, what has happened? The contribution of agriculture to total GDP is declining, but so far as its contribution to the labor force or employment has not siphoned up to manufacturing or the tertiary sector. So, major stake of population is as same or almost little bit marginally changed in agriculture, but its contribution has considerably gone down. Then also there has been a lot of disparities so far as trade-offs is concerned between agriculture products and non-agri products, the disparities are widening up. The products of agriculture are not fetching better prices in the market than the non-agriculture products like that. Similarly, they in the name of corporatization, suppose you corporatize or not corporatize. Here I am taking another side. Most of the agricultural inputs are corporatized. There was time when, as I told you, that seeds were available by the with the farmers themselves. Irrigation for them, they were depending upon monsoons, or they were having some wells or two wells irrigation or canals irrigation like that. For fertilizer also they were using compost or organic farming. Nowadays these all inputs, whether seeds are coming from corporate world, irrigation items, irrigation implements are coming from the corporate world. Fertilizers are totally corporate products. This NPK, this urea, phosphate, and nitrogen, like that things, they all are coming from the corporate world. Our implements, whether you see they are tractors or threshers or everything, they are being owned by big, you see, corporates. They are selling to these farmers, small farmers. Small farmers don't have sufficient income on their own, then they go for the loans from the bank, and each farmer is becoming indebted to these farmers, and things are getting from bad to worse. Aditya, I would like to mention one thing more. There has not been these type of events like farmers' suicides which are happening in India. I don't know about the cases of other world, but in India, this has been one of the main features of farming sector. Many persons, farmers go for suicide because they are so heavily indebted of this bank loans. So for that, this reason of entire philosophy, this corporate philosophy, the modern philosophy, the Western philosophy, the capitalist philosophy infused in agriculture is basically responsible. Now, by way of law, by way of culture, by way of persuasion, the only things by way of education. If we want to protect this farmers community, especially the farmers belonging to a small land holding, we'll have to go back to our indigenous system, Indian system, traditional system of agriculture, in which everything is protected. If you permit, I can take one more issue. The products which are being produced by use of more of NPK, these chemicals are indirectly being infused in the bodies of human persons, and they are creating so many diseases, even cancers, or diabetes, or blood pressure, or obesities. These all the basic problems are coming up by having heavy intake of chemicals through these food items, which are being produced by more inputs of NPK and is hybrid varieties of seeds. So these things can also be managed properly if either by way of legislation, or by way of persuasion, or by way of education, by way of traditional culture. Things shall have to be taken properly. Aditya.
Thank you so much for your time and putting a valuable
Thank you,
light
Aditya.
on these
Thank you
issues.
very much.
And thank you all the viewers. And even though the video quality was not good, but the content, the voice was clear, so you can comment on it and give us a feedback. And that's what we are looking for. And our shows are mostly educational. And so please let us know your feedback. Namaste. Thank you.
Namaste, Aditya. Namaste.